It looks like it's over. The bear market has been canceled. The tariffs have deals on the table. I'm going to go over everything you need to know for the charts and the news this upcoming week. Let's get into it. So first and foremost, we're going to go ahead and start directly at the White House website, looking at the fact that China tariff deal in Geneva. This headline right here is pretty much all we need to know. Looking at that, the market is going to respond very aggressively in either direction. Obviously, I perceive this as bullish news. I don't see how it could be seen as negative because most of the uncertainty in the market has been on the tariff deals and how that will influence trade and also equity prices. Going over to Forex Factory, other key events for the week: CPI on Tuesday. We have FOMC speaker on Wednesday, PPI, retail sales, and consumer sentiment. This one's a sleeper. Always be aware of consumer sentiment. This one will sneak up on people. But with those in mind, that's what we have to look at for the week. All of those names are going to have some sort of relevance, but when it comes to the charts, the levels are pretty simple. And I'm going to show you right here. We're first and foremost going to start with ES, and we'll go ahead and clear the slate, make it real simple for you guys. I have a couple upside levels right here, right? 5770, 5837. So basically from the 5700s to 5900s, this is going to be kind of our main focus. Again, just right up here, if we're trading to the upside. Now, we did last week sweep this, what was this, the Thursday high right here, and we failed to close above. What we're left with is an inside day. Now, with an inside day, if you're not familiar, this type of formation results in the break of this inside candle. So if you go ahead and take this level right here and this level right here, you can see that these two form the previous day range. So with those in red, we can go ahead and start to extrapolate out what might happen. Now, I perceive there's likely going to be a gap up, which then we can look to trade towards the outside of this range, being this high right here. Now, if we break above, obviously this is the next upside level, as well as this daily fair value gap / balance price range. So anywhere from 5770 to 5800 would be my ceiling on a conservative estimate. However, if we do not gap up, obviously that would be the target to trade towards. Like if we're in here, we could look to break and then target that. I do believe we'll gap above the previous daily high, and then from there we'll look to run higher. And then with that being said, we can look to establish a trend for the near term, trading back towards all-time highs. And now we've been calling for this to be the low since it happened. I anticipated this to be the low. We formed the higher low, and now we're trending. It would make sense for us to come back into this range and then go higher. However, with the news catalyst, I do believe that we will see a gap up. So my game plan, and I'll post that in the Discord. Again, if you're not in the Discord, I say this very often. If you're not in the Discord, join the Discord. I post all of my charts in here. I show you exactly what I'm doing, my trades. We live stream in here. We go over all things trading related, as well as anything that you might need to know regarding the charts. So looking back at TradingView, we can see over on NQ, and actually just one last time before we wrap up here, inside day break. That's what I'm watching for. These are my upside levels. I have them annotated right here. You can see it on the axis. Go ahead, write that stuff down if you need to. And then one more time for my downside levels would be essentially right there, put it right there. And then you can also just have that as your downside level. If you need a couple upside and downside, there you go. This is more than enough. We're looking to trade the break of this trigger. That's I would say a counter signal. This teal line is a counter signal for the bullish move. However, I do believe we will move higher. That's what I'm planning on. And we'll add one more downside level because it's kind of yelling at me. So we have downside level 1, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have your upside levels right here. They're just very clear chart-based targets. So how you structure your trade is going to be based on your own strategy. However, these levels apply to everybody. They're on everybody's charts. So looking over now at NQ, we'll get into the bread and butter of this. We're going to go ahead once again, clean slate. We can see that NQ does have very similar levels right there with the 536. And then also we have an aggressive target up there, 327. These are just swing highs, by the way. I'm just annotating swing highs. These are very, very, very reliable targets. Here's going to be your inside day break. And then this would be previous week high right there. And you got previous week low, this target right here. So essentially this is going to be my trading range. And then I would add maybe this right here and put this as teal. I like the fact that we're above that level. So these are my levels for NQ, essentially looking for the inside day break. We'll zoom in real closely. If it breaks, trade to the black level above. If it trades above there, you can either try to get to this point or target something in here around the 800. So This is my upside range. This is my downside range. I'm personally leaning more towards a bullish thesis, and we'll continue to explore as to why that is the case. I do believe CPI will be important, but the trade deal is way more important. That's number one priority. In a couple hours, be on the charts, looking to see how is that going to trade. We're expecting a gap up, but price will ultimately determine what happens. With the two indices in play, I'm more inclined to believe that gold will see some sort of weakness, right? Gold has been on an absolute tear, but gold is obviously something that trades inverse to equities. This is a risk off trade. However, it's been trading like a meme coin. We're at all-time highs with gold. So I do think some gold selling is more than likely overdue. I can also say the same thing for the dollar, or similar for the dollar. I would say the dollar's been, I would say on like a daily time frame, been pretty weak. So the question is whether or not the dollar is going to keep in tandem with the index and start moving higher, or whether or not the dollar is going to keep bleeding. Typically, again, those are inverse correlated. However, they've been lined up in sync. Now, a couple other things I want you to keep in mind. If dollar weakens, we might see some obviously related moves in euro, considering that it's a pair, and euro's been outperforming the index based on that fact alone. So you can look and see the index, yeah, sure, it's been rallying, but you got euro that's just been on a tear for quite some time, all the while the index was selling off. So if things start to shift, you might see flows out of gold and out of euro. But we'll go and look at the market internals. This is exactly what we wanted to see. We've called this since the beginning. The collapse of VIX is perfect. We're back down to a low VIX environment of 20. That's ideal, right? Bullish scenarios are you're in a lower VIX environment. It tends to be pretty bearish when you're up here. That's why I'm willing to buy equities. That's why I was buying the dip right here and telling everybody about the same thing, because this is unsustainable. This is a lot of uncertainty. Always buy fear. There's very little downside to doing that long term. If the index starts to see some continued relief, we start to trade back towards all-time highs, expect names like Apple to continue, especially if those trade deals are favorable to companies such as Apple, which we've already heard things of that nature. Now, again, if equities are going to be bullish, another name that I've really liked is Hood. We've been talking about Hood for a while. We were buying the dip down here around 40s, and now we're trading up at the 55s. That's a very common sense idea based on the fact that, number one, Hood has the easiest accessibility to trading that pretty much any stock platform does, and it's just got a massive user base. So something like that makes sense to me. Amazon, again, will mirror the market. This thing should start to play catch up if the market does want to continue higher. These are just a couple of names that come to the top of my head. I will be primarily focused on trading NQ and specifically micro NQ. I'll be doing this either on my personal Tradeovate account, or I will also be using my Top One Futures instant funded accounts. Now, springtime sales here, 40% off with my code. If you're not familiar with the prop firm account, they have challenge accounts and instant funded accounts. I copy trade instant funded accounts. With my code, you get 40% off. So feel free to check out Top One Futures, get instant funded. It's a great program, great platform, uses the Project X interface, which has built-in trading view charts, as you can see right here. You can execute straight from the chart, or you can enter on the depth market. I like this because of the copy trading feature, as well as the fact that there is built-in risk settings. So you can essentially trail your daily loss limit so that you do not exceed any sort of up and down moves, or you can simply just limit your downside risk to a specific number, auto brackets. It's very, very, very user-friendly. My favorite platform that I've used by far. So getting back into the analysis, we can see right here that looking at some of the other risk assets such as Bitcoin, we've seen a massive move higher, which is in line with the idea that the market will be bullish. Ethereum, again, starting to see some sort of a relief bounce, as well as Solana. Solana starting to see another relief bounce. So these names are some of the biggest market caps in crypto, which is why they are important to me as an index trader. Bitcoin has correlation with NASDAQ. Now, looking at these markets, when we're starting to see a sustained bounce, the question is, if we start to see continuation higher, that might lead me to believe that there will be less interest rate pressure in the future, meaning they're going to lower those rates. That's what we heard at the Fed when they said, we're going to wait and see. We're going to leave it unchanged for now. But if that happens in the near time in the future, then this will be absolute jet fuel for risk assets while we start to see more deflation in gold. Now, these are just a few of the thoughts that I have. My primary focus as a trader is to, number one, continue to trade with the index trend, which looks to me to be higher right now after sweeping out some lows, after holding our key 5,000 level that we called out weeks ago right here, right on this channel. Call it that 5,000 level, looking for a bid, and we've seen exactly what I wanted to see. Now, this leads me to believe that we could be at all-time highs within 2 months. Crazy, right? Right in time for summer. I don't know if it's too crazy. I personally believe it's going to happen. You tell me below in the comments if I'm crazy, but the idea is when you're looking at stuff that has extreme movements, sell-offs we've never seen, like, just massive moves, you have to be delusional about the opposite scenario playing out, because what is the downside benefit of being short right here? What's the downside benefit? Like a couple more points? And then what's the upside benefit if that is a slingshot? It's a near endless, right? You have such a protected entry, such a advantage in price, and it is honestly more extreme than what we saw in COVID. So if you thought this is crazy, expect more to come. That's my thesis for the upcoming rest of the year. I do believe this is going to be the low of the year, so I'm going to look to trade higher. And in a couple hours, I'll be looking to trade the gap opening. Now, if you are interested in trading with us, feel free to join the Discord. I have a link in the description for free below. We will be streaming all week. Come join us on stream. I'll take trades with you guys, show you the logic, the breakdowns, and ultimately the entries and exits for every single trade that I take on stream. Now, if you are new to trading, I do recommend checking out some more of the videos on my channel. I have tutorials, I have breakdowns, I have techniques and strategy videos as well. And if you enjoy this type of content, last but not least, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and check out Top 1 Futures. Get an account if you do not have one already. 40% off with code DTA. Till next time, talk soon. Later.